Okay, and then Shajiv and Lamia, at the end of the session, if possible, that'd be great if you can share anything, for example, like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter account that the participants can connect with you on the chat. That'd be great. And then after the session, we also open for the virtual networking space. And then I'll paste the link that you can jump into that virtual networking space. So if you have time, that'd be great if you can move to that space so you can have a chat with participants.
So what time is that at?
That's at the end of the session. So after the session, so it's like 7 p.m. Japan time.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have another session directly afterwards with One
Okay,
Young World,
so
Shazim.
that's
So
no worries.
I don't think I'll be able to.
Okay, no
And
worries.
the other thing is that I think at the end of my slides, on the very last slide, all of those social media links, etc., are given. It's on the very last slide. So maybe we can just keep that up for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Lisa-san, this is 90-minute session.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Sorry that I didn't hear that from you, but yeah. So that's totally fine.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for letting me know that. So it's the end time is like 7:30, right?
7:30 in Japan,
Cool.
which is 4:30 in Bangladesh.
Yes, that's right.
Sure.
That's right.
No worries. Okay, let's get started for the 6 p.m. session of Thursday Gathering in 140. So today's session from the JWLI is Leaders from JWLI and Inclusive Business in Bangladesh, Moving Beyond SDGs 5, Gender Equality. So today we have a wonderful speakers here, and then I would like to pass it to Yuki-san to take it over for the 1.5-hour session today. Yuki-san, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, I'm Yuki Kusano, Japan Program Manager at Fish Family Foundation, which funds and operates Japanese Women's Leadership Initiative, and I'm the host of this session today. So this event is co-organized by the Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh and Japanese Women's Leadership Initiative in collaboration with Venture Cafe Tokyo. First, I'd like to thank Venture Cafe Tokyo for always supporting us and offering this amazing platform for innovation. And today's session is completely online, but like Venture Cafe Tokyo, we also have a Japan office at CIC Tokyo, which opened last October as Japan's largest innovation center. So I'd like to thank CIC Tokyo for offering space for innovation and collaboration too. Okay. And having said that, let me explain who we are and what this session is about first, and then move on to the panel. So Japanese Women's Leadership Initiative, as known as JWLI, started in 2006 in Boston, Massachusetts. We provide 3 programs and have over 100 alumni across Japan. So JWLI Boston invests in women nonprofit leaders and social entrepreneurs to be action-oriented leaders. It includes a 4-week training in Boston and 2-year mentorship in Japan. The second one is Champion of Change Japan Award, which recognizes women leaders who address the most pressing needs in their communities. Selected from 150 plus nominations annually, a grand champion receives $10,000 from Tiffany and Company. And lastly, JWLI Bootcamp offers a 3-day training on entrepreneurial leadership that instills management skills and an action-oriented mindset. It aims to accelerate social change in local communities in Japan. So for more details, please visit our website, which is available in English and Japanese, and I'll put the links to the chat later. Okay, so this session, Leaders from JWLI, is our monthly speaker series kicked off last March and at Venture Cafe Tokyo. So this series features alumni from JWLI, Champion of Change Japan Award, and the boot camp. And this is the 11th session. So today's session is leaders from JWLI and Inclusive Business in Bangladesh, and it's a 90-minute session. So in this session, we will explore women's leadership from inclusive or social business perspectives in Japan and Bangladesh. So joining us today are Ms. Keiko Chida, Executive Director of End-of-Life Care Association of Japan and a Fellow of JWLI Boston Program in 2017. Ms. Yumiko Mori, Founder and Chairperson of nonprofit organization Komachi Plus and a finalist of Champion of Change Japan Award 2019. And from Bangladesh, Ms. Lamia Moshet, Executive Director of UNIS Center, and Mr. Yuko Satake, co-CEO of Grameen Ukraine, and Executive Officer, Overseas Business Development at Ukraine Company Limited. And last but not least, Shajib Islam, the founder of YY Ventures and Obama Scholar at Columbia University. So before moving on to the panel, let me share a video here. We received this video from Mr. Naoki Ito, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the People's Republic of Bangladesh, who unfortunately cannot attend this session today. So it takes a little time to share the video, so please be patient with me. And I hope it's coming.
Distinguished speakers, leaders from JWLI, Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon and Shubo Poranho in Bangladesh. Good evening and konbanwa in Japan. I am delighted to say a few words at JWLI Leaders and Inclusive Business convening between Bangladesh and Japan today. We have to aim to build back stronger and better for women's empowerment in the post-pandemic, not just to recover to the same level before the pandemic. This is what then Japanese Minister in charge of women's empowerment, Ms. Seiko Hashimoto, said in her speech during the Women and the Economic Forum of APEC in September 2020. COVID-19 has had a major and disproportionate impact on women and girls in the world, including Bangladesh, and Japan is no exception. Loss of income and employment has seriously impacted. The number of Japanese women in employment decreased by 700,000 from March to April last year, almost twice as many as that of men. In October, the number of women committing suicide increased by 80% compared to a year ago. The government sought to address the situation and focused on measures for gender equality and women's empowerment in the process of budget formulation by what we call gender budgeting. Talking about Bangladesh, Japan joined the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative in 2017 with a contribution of $50 million to the fund established in the World Bank, the scale of which is more than 1 billion with risk-abated private capital. 2.7 million out of our funding has been mobilized to create market opportunities for SMEs owned by women in Bangladesh. Approximately $200,000 was spent as capital for women-led startups in villages. We are pleased to note that this initiative has been utilized to address those challenges women entrepreneurs, women-led SMEs face in this part of the world, and hope that it will promote further women's proactive roles in business. To support the vulnerable under the pandemic, Japan also funded the Economic Leadership Training course in partnership with UN Women. This initiative provides women empowerment through creating income sources for returned female migrant workers who had to come back to Bangladesh and have lost their income due to COVID-19. While there are many spaces we need to tap into, I hope that today's discussion for inclusive social business perspective would lead to further strengthen gender equality and women empowerment. Japan will continue to collaborate with Bangladesh to provide opportunities for future leaders to move beyond gender equality. Our aim should be to build back stronger and better together at this global pandemic. Shobaike onek donnevad.
Okay. So now let me start the panel by introducing today's moderator, Shajib Islam. Shajib is an Obama Scholar at Columbia University in the city of New York and the founder of JWLI Ventures, a social business company that builds accessories and invests in social business, reducing poverty, unemployment, and carbon emissions. And before founding JWLI Ventures, Shajib led the establishment of Bangladesh's first independent social business incubator, JWLI Gasti, which has backed 50 plus social entrepreneurs since 2016 who have impacted the lives of more than 100,000 people. And previously, Shajib was the founding country director of YGAP in Bangladesh, an innovative international development nonprofit that supports local entrepreneurs with local solutions, and country advisor at Give to Japan, a US-based nonprofit funding vetted community-based organizations that are addressing the most pressing issues at the local level. So Shajib, please leave me 5 minutes at the end of the session for the final announcement, but I'm passing the virtual mic to you now.
Thank you so much, Yuki, for your kind words and for the introduction. So with the International Women's Day around the corner, exchanging ideas about creating an inclusive system and environment for women can make meaningful contributions. And I'm super happy to be here in this panel. Social mobility has been more challenging for women compared to men, not just in Bangladesh, but also in Japan. Women have their own challenges, but not all of them are really, really exclusive for women. I personally think if we have to move beyond gender equality, we have to involve and engage men in the conversation, not just women. So to begin today's panel, I would like to introduce to you all Mr. Yuki Satake, co-CEO of Grameen JWLI. Mr. Satake, welcome to the panel. You have been part of the Mang Beans project, which supported local farmers in Bangladesh to learn Japanese agriculture and to increase farmers' income. Your work at the Mang Bean Project and Grameen JWLI reflects your devotion towards enhancing the quality of life in my country, Bangladesh. In your opinion, what are the key differences of Bangladesh and Japan in these circumstances? And my second question to you is how were you inspired by the work of Nobel Peace Prize winner, Professor Muhammad Yunus? Could you please share how this journey of creation of such a social business project started?
Yes, thank you so much, Shajib-san. Just a moment. Okay. Today I will share, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I will share my experience in Bangladesh. Now I share a presentation panel. Just a moment. Can you see? Today I will share my experience in Bangladesh to execute the social business, to empower the female and the performer. Why so? Sorry. Okay. Yes. My first visit to Bangladesh is almost 11 years ago, 2010. So at that time, I visited to Bangladesh to run the microfinance. At that time, I stayed in the local area 2 weeks. It's very poor situation. I was very shocked to hear this situation. I stayed the same bed and I eat the same food with them. So why did they so poor? If I introduce a Japanese agriculture technology, they would become more rich. So I decided to execute mung bean project. This is very important experience for me. So after return to Japan, I make a plan for this project. I have the very good opportunity to discuss with Professor Ennis at that time. I share my plan to Professor Ennis. If our company introduce Japanese technology to them, then their income will increase. Also, they get a good nutritious food, So as a result, we can eliminate poverty and malnutrition at the same time. So also after getting this product, I plan to export this product to Japan because Japanese people purchase very good price compared than Bangladesh price. So this is a very win-win situationship. 50% is export and 50% is to sell the local market by without any profit to eliminate malnutrition. This is a basic plan of our social business. As a result, our project is expanding step by step. After 10 years, 2018, our area reached total 5,000 hectares, and our harvest amount reached 3,000 tons. 8,000 contract farmer is at our team. So their income increased $200 on average in per year. So we executed this project southern area in Bangladesh, Josor, Bora, Borgona, like this. So this is a scene of our project, farmer meeting, so empowerment of the women, like this. So how to make rich, how to make a profit for them. We hold such kind of meeting over 200 times in local ways. This experience very tough for our Japanese people. So first, they didn't believe our plan. But recently, through our track record, many farmers add our project like this. So many females get taka through this project. And this is our contribution. Then through this experience, 2018, we had meet a very serious problem in Cox's Bazar. This is a Rohingya beneficiary problem. So at that time, what can I do to solve this situation? If we introduce our Japanese technology for the smallholder farmers in this area, they can get a big profit. Also, farmer can supply the many kind of food, rice, beans, like this. So we introduce Japanese technology in this area. So farmer produce and harvest this product. So as a result, the WFP shop purchase this product. So this is very win-win situation. So solving two serious social problems at the same time. So we make possible this project. So there are two serious problems. So one is job losing of the smallholder farmers by invading the Rohingya refugee. So another problem is food supply for Rohingya refugee. So we can solve this problem at the same time. I showed this result. Last season, we hired 2,000 farmers. Then we harvested 600 tons of mung bean and rice. We delivered 1.1 million packet for the beneficiary. This project supported Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Mr. Ito, Japanese ambassador, was supported this project strongly. This season, 2021, we expand this project 6 times compared to last season. Mung bean should be harvested 3,000 tons. Rice should be harvested 3,000 tons, same. So this number is 6 times compared with last season. We can deliver the 6 million packet for Rohingya refugee. This is our main social business. So through this project, we can eliminate poverty and malnutrition and making job opportunity. This is one of the successful project of both WFP and our company. So this project is corporate to the private sector and world organization. So I want to expand this project to eliminate all the poverty and malnutrition for Rohingya refugee. Also, we expand other project. I will share that this project. So name is Ukraine Genki Program. Ukraine Genki Program is biscuit distribution project. Ukraine is a name of company and name of food. Ukraine is a very nutritious ingredient, including 59 kind of the nutrition, all kind of vitamin, amino, or supply like that. So we put into Ukraine this biscuit. So we deliver this biscuit. So every day 10,000 for per children in slum town for free. So totally we delivered 10 million packets. So until now for these 5 years. This is so both our social project. Through such kind of the project, we contribute to increase income for all ladies and the poor farmer, and to eliminate malnutrition situation in local area. This is our activities in Bangladesh and increase business. Thank you so much, Shajib-san.
Thank you so much, Satake-san. Next up, we have a wonderful speaker, and it's always an honor to introduce her to any global forum. We are delighted to have Lamia Morshid, Executive Director of Yunus Center, the global hub of social business activities founded by 2006 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Professor Muhammad Yunus. Lamia, you have been working with the social business movement for over 24 years. You are a mother of 3 wonderful children. You travel across the world. You sit in the board of a dozen social businesses. What kind of change have you seen across these years working in Bangladesh and with social business? And we all know that what started with just $27 in Jogba village has soon become a global phenomena. And what are some of the trends of women entrepreneurs in Bangladesh?
Thank you, Shazib. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the Embassy of Japan, to JWLI, and to Venture Cafe Tokyo for having me. I'm very happy to follow Satake-san. I'm also proud to be sitting on the board of his company. It's one of the most dynamic social businesses, and I'm very happy that your audience could hear from Satake-san today. I saw that, so I also have a few slides, but I just wanted to say that there was a topic of inclusive business. You say inclusive business. When we talk about inclusive business, we mean social business, because it's a social business is basically a business that is intended entirely to address a pressing societal problem. It's a profitable business, but the profit stays with the company to increase the reach and impact of the business, not to enrich anyone. An investor can recoup his or her investment into it, but nothing beyond that. So it's basically a selfless business to solve human problems. That's the way that Professor Yunus talks about it, a selfless business to solve human problems. And basically the first social business from which the whole idea was derived, as you mentioned, Shazib, is the $27 to 42 people. This is basically the Grameen Bank, which was founded by Professor Yunus in 1983. And it's a bank that sought to provide financial services at easy conditions to the poorest of the poor. It provided the need provided these without the need for collateral or the need for guarantees. It does not require the borrowers to be literate. It basically turned the conventional banking on its head. So this is how it made it inclusive instead of exclusive. Before Grameen Bank, the poor were excluded, the women were excluded, those who could not provide collateral were excluded. So for us, the first social business is the first example of inclusive business for us. And maybe we can just look at the slides that I have, which gives very briefly a glimpse into where Grameen Bank is today. Thanks. Next one. Can we go to the next one? So this is just a picture. I think, you know, everyone would like to see what it looks like. So in the villages, how the Grameen banking takes place at the field level, at the doorsteps of the women. And this last picture for me is captures the power of this journey, because Tasmina, who is the woman standing next to Professor Yunus at the Nobel Prize ceremony, she is one of the borrowers of the Grameen Bank, who became a member of the board of directors and who traveled to Oslo, Norway in 2006 to receive the Nobel Prize. I think in that image, it encapsulates what this journey has meant in terms of empowerment of women. Can you go to the next slide? So here, I think it's not very clear to read it, but basically the way it works is that the bank invests into poor women in very easy conditions that I mentioned. They pay back, and then there's reinvestment. And through this process, the women, they use, and I guess a lot of you know about this already, they use their income to build, not for consumption, but basically to invest in different things that help develop their families, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education of the children, whether it's clothing for the children, whether it's housing and so on. So that is where the local development comes. So it's a virtuous cycle. And I would say that this is also what a social business is about, that the money keeps going round and round, growing each time, increasing its reach, increasing its impact, and creating local development. Next. Okay, so here, again, I'm not being able to read this. It's very big, but I believe the figure is today, where it started with those $27 to 42 people in 1976. It's 9.3 million borrowers across Bangladesh, in every village of Bangladesh, every one of the 80,000 villages, the presence of Grameen Bank is there. And the majority of these borrowers, 94% of them, are women. So they are the main agents of a change in the Grameen Bank system. And I can't read the figures here, but I basically, it's, can you see? I can't read the figures. Anyway, the point is that billions of dollars have been invested and it's all been paid back, and the repayment rate remains at between 97 and 99% today. And a very important part of this is that the women themselves, coming from these most impoverished families, have accumulated nearly $3 billion in savings, which provides a very big cushion for them for adversity and disaster. Next. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this one I wanted to include because this shows the 16 decisions. I guess other than the bank being about financing activities, it's also about a social development program that the women themselves decided. So back in 1984, a lot of the center chiefs among the borrowers decided that they would undertake certain things in their lives which would lead to incremental changes and improve the quality of their lives. So they all decided, for example, that they would plant vegetables in their gardens and eat that vegetable and sell the extra in the village. They decided that they would drink clean water and not infected water, that they would send all their children to school. And these 16 decisions encapsulated in this picture form the basic social development framework of the bank, which is around which the impact of the bank has actually been measured. So I thought I should mention this because I would say that this is probably the only bank in the world that has a social development program like this. Next. So the impact of the Grameen Bank, basically, this is shown that the villages where Grameen Bank is present, the incomes of those families have always been greater than comparable villages where there's no Grameen Bank activity. And similarly, within a village where Grameen Bank is operating, the Grameen Bank families also do better than comparable households that are not members of Grameen Bank. So that's what this slide says. Again, I'm not able to read it. I don't know why the text is broken up, but it's okay. We can go to the next one. So this is basically the impact that we see of Grameen Bank on women, which is that it's led to increased decision making among women within the families, which didn't exist before, that they've increased investment in the children's education. 100% of all children of Grameen Bank families go to school. The women have better incomes and better savings, which of course provides cushion in the time of disaster and adversity, which is so common. That they have greater mobility, that they have greater interaction with non-kinship networks, and many, many other impacts. So these are all documented impacts of the Grameen on empowerment of women. Next. I think we can skip this slide. Next one. So basically, what is a social business? Grameen Bank idea led Professor Yunus to conceptualize a social business, saying that why do we do social business? Because we are basically a business that has the purpose of a charity, but with the engine of business. A charity dollar has only one life, whereas a social business dollar, because it's invested over and over again, has an endless life. So I think this gives you a good rationale for why we do social business. Next. Okay, so these are the 7 principles of social business. And I wanted to show this because it provides the framework of what we mean when we say social business. So it has a clear social objective. It is a business where you invest, but where the investor doesn't receive anything beyond getting back their investment. It has the profits that are made go back into the business to increase its scope and impact and improve its product or service. It's a business which has to be gender sensitive and gender inclusive, so inclusive of women and having good impact on them. It also has to be environmentally environmentally sustainable and kind to the environment. If that doesn't happen, then it's not a social business. The workers who work there are paid and compensated as high as the market wages or even better. And finally, why do we do social business? We do it because it brings us joy. Not because it brings us money, but because it brings us joy. So these are the 7 principles of social business. And I think finally, at the last part, the last 2 slides or 3 slides are about the most favorite social business of mine. Thank you, Shazib, for allowing me this time. But basically, we talk about how we overcome challenges, and this social business encapsulates the essence of social business and the best in terms of overcoming challenges. It's a nursing college that provides world-class nursing education to students coming from the poorest Grameen families. It's a collaboration with Glasgow Caledonian University of Scotland, and it provides diploma, BSc, and post-basic training to these students. To date, it has trained 600 students who are already qualified and working in hospitals around Bangladesh, and another 500 are currently enrolled. The cost of their training and education is covered entirely by Grameen Bank and guaranteed by Grameen Kalyan, which is another company created by Professor Yunus focused on healthcare. The students who take this loan, which they would not be able to afford from anywhere else, don't have to actually pay back any of this money until after they've educated and they're working and as nurses, and they have an income that allows them to pay back. Once that money comes back, that goes into a fund that then supports other students to come in. The girls come, as I said, from the poorest families, but they're trained to the highest level, to world-class level as nurses. And we always focus on girls coming from the most minority families and from the most marginalized communities. So it addresses several issues. One is the shortage of nurses in Bangladesh. It addresses the issue of professional employment for young women, to a world-class level. It removes the stigma that is attached to nursing in Bangladesh. It's not something that's culturally encouraged, but by this example, a lot more women are now coming into it, and it's all done in a totally sustainable way. That means it covers its costs, so it's not dependent on outside money. And finally, and this was something Shazib asked me to mention, is an example of some of the women who have been impacted by this, and which provides an example. This Rokia Akhtar Brishti, Shetu Mondol, and Popi Bhomik. They're 3 girls who came from Grameen Bank families in the rural areas. After they studied at the nursing college, they went on to do bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in Scotland at the Glasgow Caledonian University, which is a very competitive nursing school in the UK. And they've qualified, and they've actually come back to Bangladesh and are now serving as faculty in the college. So I think the example of these 3 girls shows about in how in just a span of 3 to 4 years, this social business can have such a transformative impact on the lives of young women in Bangladesh. So I wanted to just mention these in my presentation, and I'm sorry I can't read the slides, but I hope that captures something about why social business and what are the main challenges. Thanks, Shazib.
Thanks so much, Apu. We could see your slides pretty well. Moving to the next segment. So as an entrepreneur, I would like to mention some of the challenges that I face in my workplace, and then also talk about some of the disparities that we have in both of our countries. For example, when I started our incubator first, almost 6 years ago, without knowing how to run it, one of the major challenges that we used to face is we run a 4-month-long intense rapid curriculum for social business development. And then some of these trainings are on-site. And then we had to struggle so much. And then I was taking phone calls with the family members of all the women entrepreneurs, and then the number was pretty low here. And most of the cases, all these men and women who apply in our programs, they have some sort of an university education, they understand technology, and they're capable of building high impact businesses. But then later on, we tweaked our model. Since 2017, we said, if you have to get into YY Goshti's program, you need to have a female co-founder. Other than these, you cannot get enrolled. And dramatically, the situation has changed. Before we had 20% women entrepreneurs. Now, this year, we have 61% female entrepreneurs, which means if men actually want, the environment can literally get changed. And also, we do the same thing in terms of our organization. We want 51% female employees by the end of 2022. I hope to achieve this. And then also from the social investments side, I think if we can imagine a future, like what's going to happen in the coming years, I think the coronavirus pandemic has opened our eyes, and we as humans also believe why we really need to put our resources and money for socially and environmentally consciousness-driven projects. And in a nutshell, we call them social businesses, as Lamia Morshid has explained very well. And by the time most of our audience will have an idea of how social businesses work and how Professor Yunus defines them. And on the other side, we do not see a lot of funding or venture funds or impact investors coming to invest in young entrepreneurs. Maybe there's a gap somewhere. Either there's not a good matchmaking, or young entrepreneurs, they don't know how to reach them, or investors are looking for something else. But I think it's a field where, as ecosystem builders and enablers, we have a lot to do. We need to think about new kinds of funding vehicles and mechanisms where people can actually deep dive into sustainable investments, and then they can turn some of their charity money into social business investments. And in one of the slides in the previous presentation, we have seen how social businesses can also enable charity dollars to be converted into sustainable investments. So from my company's perspective, we think as investors and enablers, we need to put most of our money and resources into funding startups or social businesses founded by women. If you look at the story of Grameen Bank, more than 95% of the borrowers are women. At least even today in most of the microfinance institutes across the globe. But the gender parity is a deciding factor on whether or not economies and societies thrive. Our success to ensure Sustainable Development Goals number 5 will have a huge bearing on the growth, competitiveness, and future readiness of the economies like Bangladesh and Japan. The index's rankings offer an effective means to measure progress. They are designed to create global awareness for men and women, for people like us and everyone. Where Bangladesh has a score of 0.652 and it's ranked as the 50th nation among 152. Now it's 50th among 153. Bangladesh has been ranked as also one of the top countries among its neighbors in the South Asian region, performing the best in bringing down the gender gap by a report from the World Economic Forum. And we as a nation were able to close 72.6% of its gender gap and obtain 50th position globally. On the other side, Japan has a score of 0.652 and currently is ranked as 121st among 153 nations. Sadly, we have seen 11 places decline in the Japan's ranking compared to the year before, which means we have a lot of work to do in the coming days and weeks and months. And when I look at this screen and then I see most of the speakers and panelists are women, I am really, really hopeful that this will happen. So to take the conversation forward, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Keiko Chida, Executive Director of End of Life Care Association of Japan. In 2015, Keiko established the association to provide training programs and create awareness towards end-of-life care together with a hospice care doctor, Taketoshi Ozawa. I apologize if I pronounce the name wrong. The goal is to foster a community of care where everyone, from children to elderly, can recognize and empathize with the suffering of themselves and others. Keiko, tell us about what you do at your work every day and how you facilitate mutual support through it, and also what are some of the challenges and struggles you have encountered in your journey of becoming a successful entrepreneur?
Thank you so much for introduction, Shazi. And I'd like to thank the Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh and Fish Family Foundation for giving me this great opportunity to share with you our challenges and learn from each of you. Again, my name is Keiko Chida, co-founder and executive director of End of Life Care Association of Japan. Me and co-founder Taketoshi Ozawa, who is a hospice care doctor, started our activity 6 years ago. We are addressing the issue of social isolation, especially for those who are in the final days of life. Oh, I'm sorry, especially for the people towards the end of life. And today I'd like to with you, starting from our backgrounds and how we tackle with the issue, what we call 5-step caregiving model, to creating an inclusive and sustainable learning communities for all, from children to the elderly, in order to live well, to end well. Now, COVID-19 has exposed the weaknesses of Japan's social security system. Japan has a well-developed public system, including a universal health insurance system. This means that every citizen has an access to medicine with low cost. A society in which this is a norm seems to be a privilege, but I believe it has side effects. I am concerned that today's Japan has become so focused on public assistance that we have lost a sense of self-help and mutual help, where we face our own difficulties and try to help our neighbors suffering. The population of Japan, especially younger generations, has steadily been decreasing. but the population of older people is growing. Within 5 years, baby boomers will be over 75 years old, which would make it difficult to rely on the current healthcare and medical insurance system. It is clear from the examples of other countries that once acute care is trained, it will be prioritized on the grounds that it cannot be delivered to everyone, placing a burden on healthcare workers and potentially leading to medical collapse. This would lead to a disruption of the ecosystem. We might be able to say that COVID-19 has brought the world closer to that future in 5 years. Now, even if social resources are limited, it is necessary to rebuild a new ecosystem that allows people to live out the rest of their lives with peace of mind. Such a new ecosystem would rely more on the community for support. To do so, we need to change our two common beliefs. Firstly, only a few medical professionals are able to engage with those who suffer. Here are some phrases we often hear from patients or older adults. The feeling of helplessness or not being needed by anyone is a great suffering for people towards their end of life. And the more people will see no meaning in life, the more they wish to die soon because they feel they are unable to do anything and are just a burden to their families. Caregivers also feel helpless because their client's condition is not in their control and because of negative feelings shared by the person. Secondly, death is a taboo and should not be discussed. Aging and dying is a natural course of life, and yet it is difficult to face. For example, families are unable to discuss the future of their parents, and when the time comes, they don't know what their parents' wishes are or aren't aware that they are going against them. What can we do? Now, to encourage more open communication regarding such difficult topics and help people discover their supports, we launched training programs for diverse target audiences based on our experience in the field of hospice and palliative care. Our initiative firstly addresses the issue of self-confidence of medical professionals to face critical cases, especially suffering from losing meaning of life. Our program is to help these unresolvable sufferers feel more at ease through lessons learned from hospice care. This is our 5-step caregiving model. It all starts with building a relationship through empathetic listening. The goal of the communication is not for me to understand them, but for them to feel understood. Even if you've closed your mind to the idea that no one understands you, just one person who cares about you will help you see the world differently. Then, as a caregiver, we want to identify what they suffer from. Suffering can be defined as a gap between hope and reality. For example, you used to be a very independent person who decide and execute everything on your own. But now that you cannot even walk to the bathroom, you feel ashamed that you have to bother your family. In traditional Japanese culture, especially older generations, families are still expected to be caregivers to some extent, especially females. As a caregiver, we can carefully listen to them to learn what supports them and strengthen it together. In this case, you may feel relieved if you find a professional caregiver who you can trust, and you do not have to bother your family. It's by no means just some people who specialize in medicine who can get involved. Finally, as mentioned, caregivers also feel helpless because their client's condition is not in their control and because of negative feelings shared by the person. However, staying involved with someone who is suffering, even if you cannot solve the problem, will strengthen your pride as a caregiver and motivate you to keep learning. Based on that 5-step caregiving model, we have developed a 2-day training program. Our survey found out after they learned how to listen to the suffering of clients, as well as to address their strengths, they feel empowered and confident to face difficulties. Only within 6 years, we have delivered the programs 104 times, reaching 6,800 participants. 10% doctors, 50% nurses, 20% professional non-medical caregivers. Out of them, 300 have become leaders being in charge of self-help learning programs throughout Japan. There are 40 out of 47 prefectures that now have such active leaders in at least one study group. However, this is only the first step to creating a society that is resilient to sufferings, to develop individuals that won't be unaware of how to listen to others' suffering as well as face their own. Most people feel indifferent about dying or suffering. The problem is that it is too painful to try to think about what is important to someone when their end of life is approaching. And it is not possible to think about it until the end of life. But we don't want to think about it too soon. What should we do? We transfer our knowledge and experience in the field of end-of-life care to awareness building of citizens. We work with the next generation in their 40s to 50s, who are key stakeholders of their parents' nursing care. Over 100,000 people leave jobs in a year because of their family care in Japan, which is a huge loss in industries. Out of them, 70% are females. We provide corporate training programs with large companies such as IT or financial companies. The topic is not death, but rather project management, how to manage the crisis of leaving their jobs to balance caring for parents and their work responsibilities. By the way, some of the people who join our workshop come to help us with our work, which is another reason we call it sustainable. Also, we provide school children with classes that suit their age, so they can learn how to give and receive care to the people around them. Caregiving is not only about cure, but care in everyday situations. This phrase, "I wonder if I'm worth living," previously presented, is actually from a 12-year-old boy. I hear this from many school children in Japan. Japanese teenagers have very low self-esteem compared to other countries, and suicide is the leading cause of death among teenagers. If only there's at least one person who cares about you, listen to you, even if the suffering itself is still there, it will give you strength to live. Children also suffer, feel helpless, unconfident, but they learn what they value through suffering. And once they realize they have someone or something watching over them, they feel okay, even if you cannot do anything. Such an experience can be motivation for them to extend their support to others who have felt the same way, giving them a new purpose in life. We hope such non-professional caregivers will increase in everyday situations. So now let me conclude this. Our society has now been shrinking. In the inevitable demographic changes, many older people will have to be supported by younger generations. The traditional ecosystem cannot cope with this. With the current COVID pandemic and Japan's new government, we are starting to see some changes in people's mindsets. The government has been promoting the idea of prioritizing self-help on mutual help, and also last month just appointed Minister of Isolation and Loneliness. And it is possible that we will see a shift in the current ways of thinking in the next few years. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Keiko Chida. Thank you for sharing the powerful model that you have at work. Moving on to our final speaker, final panelist for the day, Yumi Komori, founder and chairman of non-profit organization Komachi Plus. Ms. Mori, you are the chair and founder of the organization from where you have established Komachi Cafe to create a support network of mothers and promote child rearing on a community level. Moreover, your experience in the private and public sector has enabled you to start many other initiatives that supports isolated mothers. And when we talk about diversity and inclusiveness, we understand the importance of enabling this kind of differences through skills and creativity to mold social and economic development. In light of your experiences, I want to ask you, how would you define diversity and inclusiveness? And can you also share with us your experience of working with mothers and children?
Okay, thank you, Shaji, for your kind words, and my many thanks for JWLI and the Embassy of Japan and Bangladesh for this wonderful place. And it is a great honor to share the views of Japan and Bangladesh about this very important theme. And as Yuki-san from JWLI has asked me to share with you, first of all, about how the woman leadership is like in Japan. So first of all, I would like to share with you how it looks like in Japan. The ratio of woman entrepreneur is only about 15.5%. And what is amazing is that since 1991, it hasn't changed much. It was 12.4 in 1991. So the graph looks very stable. And why it is so low and why it doesn't change? And there are some data to show this. 41% of the entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, say they had lack of chance to gain knowledge about management and entrepreneurship, whereas the men say it is much less, 37%. And also 18% of women entrepreneurs say they have difficulties in balancing with child rearing or elder care, whereas men entrepreneurs say only 4.9% say it so. So that's a great difference. And also, it's not just for women, but in Japan in general, there's a silent culture that values being the same. So valuing more stability rather than standing out. So this may be some of the reasons leading to this very low ratio. And how about it in the social sector? The women leadership in the nonprofit sector is 27.9%. So what is slightly higher than the graph that I showed you before. And I am in this 27.9%. So when I started my organization in 2012, in my first 2 years, I had a very hard time gaining trust from the society. So it was hard to find a place where an owner of a building rent me a place to open a cafe. Nobody would trust me. One is because I am from the social sector, and one is because I'm a woman. So this is some of the hardship we have in Japan. So what I do is that the organization I founded is called Komachi Plus. We aim to make a society where we have every child be raised by the whole community. And we have about 50 staffs and 180 volunteers. And what we do mainly two things. One is to rebuild social networks around mothers through making a community cafe, a cafe very close to their community. And secondly, what we do is to make and send a free birth presents from the community. The people in the community make a present and we send them for free. And why we need to do this, and I want to show you this data comparing to Bangladesh. This data shows you the maternal mortality, or this is the rate of deaths of mothers after pregnancy or giving birth. The world average is about 216 per 100,000 live deaths. And Bangladesh is here, 176. And Japan is here, only 5. So in Japan, mothers die right after giving birth is very low. However, the problem is here, the suicide rate of mothers or the maternal mothers is very high in Japan. About 8.7 per 100,000 mothers commit suicide in Japan, whereas in England it's only 2.3, and in Sweden it's only 3.7. And I don't have the data for Bangladesh. If you do, I want to know. But it's quite high in Japan. And why this happens is, one is because for not getting necessary support from the family and for the community, and also because they feel powerless. And why would they feel powerless? It's not only the domestic violence, but a very strong control from their partners or the husbands. The husbands decide how much they work or how much they don't work. So their power or the self-esteem is very, very low. And from this situation, we don't have much place for gradual recovery or a place to participate in the society. And this makes a very severe isolation for mothers. So that is why we start making cafe. We have about 120,000 visits per year. We have this really nice lunch, desserts. And we're right about to start an ecosystem to share a knowledge to start up cafes, 100 community cafes, entrepreneurs by 2025. And what we think is important in this cafe is that we make many stages of participation and also many, many chances for dialogues. And this is very important for recovery and also making social networks around the mothers. And another project we do is a Welcome Baby project. That is the project I told you just before. We make and send free birth presents. We have already sent it 2,300 presents in the past. This is the picture of the present we make from the community. Many people participate in the process of making this present. And the Japan first diaper vending machine was born from this project with Kao and Kirin. And there are only, about 50 vending machines now in all over Japan. And we are planning to spread this project to 10 areas in Japan by 2025. And from Shajib-san said about the diversity and inclusiveness, and what we think is important is that we make chances for social dialogues to be aware of the social norms we make to our unconsciously. So we have many dialogues with Israeli women. This is the Israeli women. We have about 30 to 40 visits from Israeli. And this is a picture from Zambia. Well, we do some workshop with them as well. And also another important thing is to make various places for participation. Many help is important, but moreover, we think is the participation is very, very important for making inclusive society. So that's it for my time. And if you want to hear more about us or talk more about it, please contact us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know our audience will have many questions and they would love to get in touch with you. But I personally have one more question for you. I'll come back in a bit.
Okay.
Moving on to the next segment, I'd like to come to Lamia Morshid again. Although you're very down to earth, and then every time we discuss about diversity and changes, I hear something from you, but it's a question to you from me and also from the organization's side of the program. As a woman in leadership, I'm pretty sure you have your fair share of challenges throughout the years. We would like to know how you have overcame those challenges. And in Bangladesh, I know we have a lot of social stigma and bias. And to address these, it would be great if you can also talk about other women in general who works with you in the boardroom or in the management of large social businesses or corporations.
Thank you, Shazib. Very happy to answer that. Basically, my own journey of how I came to be in this organization is that I actually had the chance of growing up overseas, not in Bangladesh. My father was a diplomat. I was actually born in Japan, if the audience is interested, in Tokyo, when my father was posted there. And I had the chance of living all over the world. And as I grew older, I thought I was very privileged and I have to go back to my country to do something there. And this became even more concrete for me when I joined university in London at the LSE, where they were very engaged in global issues and development issues. And one summer, I came and did an internship at Grameen Bank. I believe some of my colleagues here have also done internships at Grameen Bank. And I decided that I would do my undergraduate thesis on Grameen Bank. And then once I finished my studies, I wanted to come and work there. And at that time, there was a small organization called Grameen Trust, whose entire purpose was to take this Grameen Bank success, this methodology, to take it to other countries. And that really attracted me. And I actually thought this was kind of an extension of the work that my father did as a diplomat. So the kind of a development approach to diplomacy, taking a Bangladeshi indigenous solution to indigenous problem to the rest of the world. So I got a job as a young officer in Grameen Trust. And I've now spent 25 years in Grameen. I spent the first 13 years at Grameen Trust. And since Professor Yunus received the Nobel Prize in 2006, I have been associated with the Yunus Center as its director. So that was on microfinance, and this is on social business. My personal challenges, I would say that I have not really faced so much, because this is an organization that was very focused from the beginning on empowering women. Grameen Bank made a very concrete decision that they wanted to target women, because when you target the women, the children and the family, the whole family benefits. So this was something they did not decide. They had decided 50% men, 50% women to lend to. But they saw that the money that was going to the women resulted in improvements in the family, whereas the money that was going to the men in the families was usually to benefit the man. So this is something that they saw. And so since this was a bank that was focused on women's development, they started gradually going from 50% to today more than 97%. I mentioned 94%, 97% of borrowers. So it's always put women at the center. And I was actually in my talk with Shazib on the phone yesterday, I was saying that maybe we don't have so many women in corporate leadership positions and boards and CEOs in Bangladesh compared to other countries, but the impact of social women's empowerment in Bangladesh has been very bottom up. So these 9 million women who are members of Grameen Bank, they are all self-employed owners of business at the grassroots level. What a power that is. They have accumulated more than $3 billion in savings. What a power is that? They are the owners of the bank. 75% of the bank is owned by these poor women. And they sit on the board of the Grameen Bank. Nine women sit on the board of the Grameen Bank in a board of 12. So the approach in Bangladesh of women's empowerment, and it's not just Grameen Bank or NGOs that have achieved it. It's been government programs. It's been very active role of the government in employing women for hospitals, field work, teaching, police, all kinds of sectors, but it's been very focused for bottom up. So I would say that we had an empower, and also the garments industry. Millions of women are employed in the garments industry. They have their own independent source of income. They have moved into the urban centers to do that, away from the rural setting. They live independently in hostels and so on. So this is the kind of empowerment we've seen in Bangladesh. And this is actually, my previous speaker mentioned the dropping mortality rate and maternal mortality rate. It's also been accompanied by a drastic reduction in infant mortality rate, and we have compared much better to other countries in the region. A lot of indicators around gender empowerment, gender and women's empowerment and gender equality have been, we are in the lead in the region because of this very deliberate focus on women for all of our development interventions, not just Grameen Bank, but also from the government side, and a kind of a deliberate decision that we should focus on women so I would say that. So we are probably still lagging behind in having more women at the level of the board and in CEO positions in the country. But I would say that the kind of empowerment that we have seen and the kind of advances we have seen is probably more sustainable because it's a very broad-based and very widespread. So I think, I'm sure in your work, Shazib, you'll see quite a lot of entrepreneurs women who are coming up, and they may face challenges, but I think this is something that will continue to be overcome in the way that much, much bigger challenges have been overcome by rural women in Bangladesh.
Thanks so much for sharing the insight. And I'm pretty sure this is very helpful for most of our audience. And to connect with what you were saying, I think at my work, We also try to create an inclusive environment for women, not just because they are women, but because they are capable and to some extent better than men in many ways, by encouraging women to join social businesses, and then also by supporting and promoting social businesses that address work of women in different skills required to that they need to thrive. So I could give you an example of a social business startup that just graduated from our program. They are called Bharosha, which means trust, and living up to their name, Bharosha is reassuring that women are competent and resourceful. They work with women who are mostly in the informal sector, which is one of the driving forces of our national economy. And without the full participation of women in the development process, we as a nation and men in general are deprived of realizing what we as a nation are truly capable of. So this is where exactly Bharosha works. They find those women, they train them, and then they also connect them with jobs. And there are dozens of initiatives that are coming that complements women with skill set and connects them with marketplace, not just in informal economy. Even if you look at the digital aspects or digital industry, or even freelancers, there are so many women who are coming forward as like tech experts or just designers. So next up, I would like to come to you, Mr. Satake. We loved hearing the story of how you came to Bangladesh and started the social business with inspiration from Professor Yunus. But could you please share now some of your thoughts on how Yuglina hires high school CFO to enhance diversity perspective to create sustainable societies? And for just a little background, we have had a chance to have an informal chat, and I thought this is an example that we should bring in, and everyone deserves to know the story behind it.
Okay, thank you, Sajib. So now I shared our policy of the CFO. The CFO, usually CFO is a Chief Financial Officer, but our CFO is the Chief Future Officer. So our policy, the person who decides the future is not us, like our elderly person, just a young person who will live in the future. So this is our policy. So we are looking for a new candidate to all the school, high school, junior high school. So over 2,000 applicants apply our proposal. So only 18 high school girl was elected for our CFO. So her designation is number 3. Next to the president, CEO, and vice president, number 3. I am the 5th designation. She's my boss, unfortunately. So also not only so CFO, but so we choose the summit member. So 7 members of summit member from this 2,000 students. They give many opinions and suggestions to our management. For example, just one example, we decide to change our juice bottle from plastic to paper bottle. Everything. This, we invest a huge amount of money, but this our decisions should be supported our consumers. This is one example. So they have the many so opinions. Not that we don't have such kind of the, ideas. This is very supportive and helpful for us. This is also our policy. So future officer is changed each 1 year. First year, so 18 high school girls, but this year, 2021, so 15 years girl was elected our CFO. Now she is, we have the many discussion time with her to improve our future. This is our board member. Thanks so much, Sajib-san.
Thanks so much. I would like to follow up. So you talked about future officers.
Future officer.
What's your advice for future change makers who wants to get involved in social business, inclusive businesses? no matter how we define it from both countries' perspective. In 1 minute, please.
Yeah. Yes, maybe so 15 years CFO is the youngest board member of the company. Our company is listed in the Tokyo Stock Exchange first stage. So 15 the board member, 15 years board member is the youngest in all over the world, maybe. She got the salary and privilege and decision-making right, everything. Yes. So first time, everyone was very doubtful to for our decision. But now their opinion is very helpful and supportive for us. Thanks so much. It's okay.
Nice, thank you so much. Now I would like to come to you, Ms. Mori. What is your advice for collaboration for the future leaders who wants to come, who maybe there will be many leaders who will see this video, they're inspired, they want to become someone like you, or they want to follow the work that you do. What's your advice for them?
Yes, so young people can change the world. So we obey their opinion, just as our company policy. So maybe many company will appear like Ugrena in the future. So this is my suggestion to young people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yumi Komori, what is your advice for the next generation?
My advice is to cross the border, and not only the country, but from the sector you are in. If you're in the social sector, it's good to cross the border with the other sectors and make partnership. And in that partnership, you can find the next hint. So I think that was my hint that I got when I had the hardships. So I want to share that with you.
All right, thank you. So it's basically collaboration and co-creation that crosses borders. And then I know we all sincerely hope that this COVID pandemic is gone and then we all can start traveling. So moving on to our next speaker, Ms. Keiko Chida. What is your advice for these future change makers? What message do you have for them?
Well, my advice is from actually lessons learned from Lamia-san's today's phrase that why do we do social business is not to bring money, but for joy. That is a lesson learned I took away. I mean, today's takeaway message for me. And then my message for the future generation is that enjoy your life and love your life and be connected to people. And then, try to see the opportunities, what's around there. So that's my advice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your valuable advice. So last but not the least, and Lamia Morshid, what is your advice for a young Lamia who wants to venture into social business?
So I actually wrote this down. I was saying that, and this is gleaned from what I have learned 25 years of working with Professor Yunus and my colleagues, is that even though we should all have a grand vision and a grand dream for the world, we should not think small, we should really think big. We talk about, Professor Yunus talks about 3 zeros, creating a world with 0 poverty, 0 unemployment, and 0 net carbon emissions. But that even though the vision is big, we as an individual, we have an important role to play. Sometimes you see the size of the problem and you think, what can I do as an individual? But the whole story of Grameen Bank and all the social businesses is that one individual, one person can have an impact. And so you have a big dream, but you start small. And when you start, you do step by step by step, and then you come up with a prototype. A prototype is basically the design of a social business addressed to the issue you care about, and try to make it tiny, that it's effective in addressing the problem and it can cover its costs in some way. When you have that prototype, then it becomes just a matter of replicating that. So Grameen Bank, the example is the branch. The branch is the self-sufficient unit, and now there are 2,500 of them across the country. Each one is an independent unit financing itself. So that having a tiny workable prototype. And the other thing is that we are all working in an area where there are challenges. We are breaking mindsets. We are breaking convention. All of this is about challenging stereotypes and challenging conventional wisdom, is to never give up. I think you have to really believe in yourself and your vision, and that you can have an impact. And if you do that and stick with it despite the challenges and adversity, then you will see that people will gather around you and support you with money, with resources, and with the spiritual support that you need to carry on. I would say it's very important to have tenacity. You know, don't give up. Really believe in your vision, and you'll make mistakes. I think it's a lesson of business to make mistakes, but you have to keep going. So that's what I would say. I would like to say that.
Thank you so much for your valuable advice. And from my side, it was really, really an honor to be your moderator today. We are about 1 minute left in the panel to move ahead on the concluding part. And at this point, I want to share two of my favorite quotes, one from Professor Muhammad Yunus and one from President Obama, two Nobel laureates. Professor Yunus said, making money is a happiness. Making other people happy is a super happiness. And to all the young friends who wants to venture in a social business, trust me, you will find your joy, as Lamia said, and you will find your super happiness once you devote yourself in it. And it's a business. You can create your own employment, you can make your own living, and also help others. And President Obama said, for all the young people, be useful and be good. So if you are useful to someone else, the world will do good for you. Thank you so much. My name is Shazib M. Khairul Islam. I'm the founder and managing director at JWLI Ventures. It was an honor to be here with you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we heard both from social business leaders in Bangladesh and nonprofit leaders in Japan, and I think what they have in common is the strong commitment to social change and sustainable support for the communities, and to make the organization or the project sustainable. I think we found that the key is to engage people with different skills, people from different cultures, and of course, people of different genders. So I believe that the panel today was a great reminder for us of the value of diversity. So thank you very much for inspiring us all. Okay, so before we go, please give us comments and feedbacks via a questionnaire. I am putting the link to the chat right now. And it's very simple and it takes only a few minutes. So please make sure to fill in, and I will make sure that I will receive all your comments with the speakers later. Okay, and also I have an announcement of the next leaders from JWLI session. So let me share one slide. Okay, so next session will be held on March 11. It's actually next week. And please be aware that the session will be held in Japanese. But this is a really important event, so I'd like to introduce it here. So 10 years have passed since the Great East Japan earthquake. And despite decreasing government funding, women leaders in Tohoku, the disaster-struck area, are bravely continuing their work for their communities. And the United States Japan Foundation and Fish Family Foundation are joining forces with a 10 million yen, which is about 10,000 US dollars grant to support these women and their projects. And we will invite women leaders in Tohoku to discuss what we can do together for a resilient and sustainable future of that region. So for more details, I will put the Facebook link to the chat also. So please visit our Facebook for details. having said that, we have actually 7 minutes, so thank you for leaving me more than 10 minutes, Rajiv. But I'd like to thank again all the speakers, Lamia, Keiko, Yumiko, Yuko, and Shajiv for the inspiring panel. And also, I'd like to say thank you to Kasumi Shirahata at the Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh. She's been working very closely with us to connect us to the wonderful speakers from Bangladesh. And also, she has been translating all the presentations from English into Japanese on the chat. So it was super helpful for the audience, I'm sure. And finally, thank you everyone in the audience for joining us. And I hope to see you again next week on March 11 here at Venture Cafe Tokyo's Thursday gathering. And please do not forget to fill in the questionnaire before you go. Okay, so it's a little early, but back to you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you so much, Yuki-san, and thank you very much for the wonderful panelists with a really rich conversation, which we really enjoyed listening to great insights from all of you. And we'll still have a couple of sessions, and also if you would like to have a chat more with the speakers.
Oops, I think Lisa is.
Sorry, I just muted on myself. Yeah. So I put the link for the virtual networking space into the chat. So if you would like to communicate with participants and also the speakers, come join our virtual networking space so you can enjoy having more chat with them. And then also I'll let you know about the session that we have. So we have a session at the room A about the STEAM education. And then also at the room C is about the drone business and startup in architecture. These are both in Japanese, but it's already started from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m., we also have a STEAM for Innovation session, which is presented by the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology. So if you would like to join this session, which is in English, come to join us here. But before that, yeah, let's move into the virtual networking space so we can have more chat. Okay, thank you very much for all the wonderful speakers and the participants come to join us.
Thank you
Let's
very
see you
much.
in the
It's been
virtual
a pleasure.
networking space.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so